I don't think you have to sample, but I have to say that one of the things that attracted me most about hip-hop is sampling.
I like sampling a lot because there's a soul to the records, even if it's not a soul record. There's something in the samples, there's a warmth to it, and there's like a real soul to it that you can't fake anywhere.
Those old records sound so good. I mean, there's a reason why if you look up the online list of who sampled what, why people have made over 300 hip-hop beats out of the same James Brown song. Because those James Brown songs really sound so much better than anything else.
Coming in from somebody who used to listen to Wilson Pickett with my mom, or listen to Buffalo Springfield or James Gang with my dad, to hear those records appear in music that was finding me and that I was finding anyway, was really cool.
When you hear a song or you smell something like a cologne or whatever that reminds you of a certain time in your life, like that's how records are to me, and I'm sure it's the same way to a lot of other producers and fans of music. If I threw in a record right now that I sampled for a beat in '07, it'll just remind me of like that winter day, and like when I'm playing this and it's cold as hell in the studio and I'm just rocking with a candle lit. You know what I mean? Like it brings me back to that time, and that's the kind of like little time capsules to me.
Hip-hop takes a record like Charles Wright and the 103rd Watch Street Gang, express yourself, whether it's NWA or it's somebody else doing it, it makes it meaningful. It makes you and I sitting in a bar having beers, talking about our records, ask each other who did that.
You end up studying not only the name of the artist and the name of the song. You study the record label that made it, the time, the producer, the studio. I know all these things just from digging through vinyl. Like I know, when people recorded in this studio, the drums were extra loud, or this studio is known for having a really good sound for keyboards.
You learn from it. Like if you really like David Axelrod, like I mentioned before, like I liked sampling him, and I didn't know much about him until a few years ago. But I did the research then. I wasn't born in the '70s, you know what I mean? I don't know that stuff, so it's like I heard what I liked, and that was the first time I was exposed to it. That's how not popular it is now.
It's really helped out a lot of musicians because they made money that their old stuff would have never made money. It created a whole new revenue for artists. I think it brought back a lot of artists' music that people would have never known about.
You'll hear this from some forefathers, I'll call them, of hip-hop. Somebody like Bob James. Like, most famous thing he did was write the theme song to Taxi. But if you look at him within the hip-hop window, he did the Harlem Shuffle, which was used on the intro to Jump Around by House of Pain. He did Take Me to the Mardi Gras, which was used by Peter Piper, Run DMC, and Rock the Bells by LL Cool J. He did Nautilus, which was used by Ghostface Killah, Biggie. Like, he has all of these records that hip-hop changed because of. And Bob James got a second win.
I guess it was always the transformation that made me want to do it. Like, I can take something that's not hip-hop at all, the opposite of hip-hop, and turn it into hardcore hip-hop. It was just, it's so cool to be able to go through a catalog of old music that's not hip-hop, and then to know that with the right flip, with the right intuition, I guess, the right idea of what to do with it, you can turn something that's like la 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 la, like very soft, into something like boom boom ka, boom boom.
I absolutely think it's its own instrument. It took me a while to understand that, but I'm blessed enough to know Marco Polo for a bunch of years and going to his crib a lot and learning from him. I mean, I just realized over time that dude is absolutely making collages of sounds. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, oh, what's that horn from? And what's that violin from? And he'll be like, those are from different albums that don't make any sense, and I just throw them together and somehow it works and I love it.
If there's samples in rap songs that don't ever get found, then that's actually a form of virtuosity, because the producers are creating the songs in a way that they're trying to make the samples as different as possible so that people can't find them.
It is an art. Sampling is an art. It's almost like making a big bowl of jumbo when you're adding a whole bunch of different ingredients to create something new. Or like if you go to an art gallery and you see a collage, and a collage of, let's say, photographs, where it's taking pictures of pre-existing pictures to create a whole new image, is that therefore not art because it's made up of other stuff?
When you're really like taking a sound that's a half a second long and playing a whole melody out of it, or you're taking a 3-second sound and then you're adding a bass line and hard-hitting drums, and I mean you're transforming something. It's kind of like sculpting, and like say you find a human and you make it look exactly like that. You know, you make a sculpture that looks like that human, but it's your version of it. It's kind of like, say you take like a really wimpy, nerdy looking human, you know? And then you turn it into like a really strong, like Greek statue, like boom, I'll kick your ass type of shit, you know? That's what sampling is.
Less people think that sampling is something that was invented by hip hop. It certainly wasn't, and even in the musical genres, you know, blues and jazz influenced rock and roll, and lots of songs have been repurposed and sort of bits of one riff taken as the chorus of another song. And you know, hip hop's just has sort of made it more of the core ethic of the culture and of the sound.
No one ever questions rock and roll. No one ever questions alternative rock. No one ever questions country music. They're like, oh, that was influenced. Isn't that wonderful? They were influenced by someone. But when it comes to this genre of music, it's automatically, you know, derogatory of they stole that, they sampled that, you know, it's not original.
I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers are one of my favorite bands probably ever. And if you think back to a couple of years ago when they dropped Stadium Arcadium, even they kind of ripped off, I forgot, a Tom Petty joint. I forgot which one, but it was a big Tom Petty song. They pretty much, but they didn't like rip it off where they were trying to get away with it. I think they were kind of paying homage, and I think that's a lot of what sampling is.
It's sort of a tradition in literature as well, in the form of quotations and the sort of repurposing of previous stories and characters and references and allusions, and that's always been part of the literary tradition. So I see hip-hop artists as doing musically what poets and playwrights and novelists have always done intellectually anyway.
Sampling is the bridge. I mean, it is taking other forms of music and turning them into hip-hop. So sampling is the bridge that makes where hip-hop and other forms of music meet.
It's a collage of sounds, and that's like art. That's like Warhol, you know what I mean? That's like all these different people that were, you know, creating amazing masterpieces, because what other genre does that?